Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I'm very pleased to be on Zoom. We're on Zoom with Alex Frnka. Hey, Alex.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I am doing great, and it is lovely to virtually see you.
Yes.
Yeah, we met for the first time at Filmvasion Los Angeles in 2022.
Yes.
Because I'm going to call it your film because you were the co-writer and one of the lead actors of Blue Moon.
Yes.
Which, well, I mean, let me pull out the adjectives. It's just a brilliantly, wonderfully made short film about a topic that meant a lot to me and other members of the jury. It deals with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
And I believe at this rate, I don't know if there's anyone alive who hasn't had a family member experience this. So it's such a universal subject.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, right?
And your director was actually a veteran of our festival. Diliana Deltcheva was. So, and by the way, it always, like one of the, and this is risky for other filmmakers to hear, but one of the greatest things in the world for me as a festival programmer is when you have a great film from somebody and then you get another from that person and it's as great or better. And you're like, yeah, because, you just kind of become a fan of people.
Yeah, and you get to see their growth, and that's really exciting in this industry.
It is. It's really fun. And at the festival level, you really get to see people flourish. So, So Blue Moon is an outstanding film. And I should ask you, is there somewhere right now where people can catch it? Or is still sort of...
Well, I believe it's on the Indie channel.
Oh, excellent.
Yes, it's on the channel.
That proves that I do not have... So people should go to indiechannel.tv and check out Blue Moon. Wonderful. Yeah, yes. I never... Tommy Halal, who's a wonderful young man, he pretty much runs that now, and I just feed films to him and stay out of the way.
There you go.
Actually, I don't even know when stuff gets on.
Yes, well, it's on there, and it's, I kind of forget the running time. I think it's between 15 and 20 minutes, so kind of sort of long in the short film world, but, we just couldn't get it any shorter. We had to say what we had to say, so.
Yeah, well, and it, I'm going to say something about length briefly, because I have a new joke now that you pushed me onto the soapbox.
Oh, I love it.
But if a film is super engaging, then length becomes irrelevant. And pacing even. Like, I keep telling everyone, like, every once in a while I see, as a member of the jury, I'll see, like, a very slow-paced film, but it's so engaging from the first frame to the last that I literally want to send the person an email and go, Thank you for letting your work helped me know that my attention span has not been destroyed by my phone, because I just completely loved a deliberately placed. Normally it is drama, right? When it's slower paced. Obviously, there's not like slow paced comedy, but
right.
But by the way, I actually would not. I would not say that Blue Moon is slow paced at all, because it's actually filled with activity.
Right. Yeah. And that was one thing that it's so hard when you create a film, you come at it from so many angles. You want to tell a story that means something to you. You want to kind of leave your mark on the world. At least that's where Diliana and I just come together in so many ways, is we want to tell stories that, yes, are entertaining, but feel like they can maybe shift something, make people think differently, just ask a question. But then then after you make your film, you do want it to be seen. It needs to be marketable in a certain way, right? And so you start to read the forums where, they only take so many short films and they only have an hour and a half to fill. And so if your film's shorter, it might sneak in there a little bit more. And that's definitely something that we considered. And I think the original script was actually closer to 30 pages. And so we narrowed it down from that with obviously the help of my co-writer at the time, Taylor. So it's just about like doing it your way, but also making sure that you're doing it in a smart way. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a business, as much as we don't want it to be one sometimes. And I do think some of the most incredible art comes from people who do break those rules. But you kind of have to earn your right to break a rule, it feels like. So yeah, there's so many things to think about when you're creating a film, a short
So
film,
many. I
art.
mean, at least with a short film, you're
Yeah.
aware that it's not like there's people running around buying them up for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you don't
Right.
have to worry about that commercial side. But as far as the festival run, it always, by the way, I don't know, actually, you were part of this. I'm going to share that because your film, I pulled it up. So it's 20 minutes, it's
Okay.
1958.
Whew.
And,
That was actually
and
important to us to be under that 20-minute mark. I remember that conversation now. Our
I
amazing
get it.
editor, Jack Ravina. Yeah.
I get it. Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe I've met Jack.
Probably.
Yeah, for sure. But so your film was post-COVID, right? 2022. Pre-COVID, although you might start telling me how it was made during with masks and whatnot. But
Yeah.
before COVID, if a short was over 15 minutes, 9 times out of 10, it was just poorly edited. Like something,
Mm.
and then something happened during COVID. It was people really honed their editing skills better, I feel.
Hmm.
Something started happening, and films like yours, like I actually, as a juror on Film Freeway, I sort from shortest to longest, so you feel more productive at first. Like
Okay.
I just banged out 23-minute films, you know what I mean? Like you bang
Yeah.
them out faster if they're
Yeah.
shorter. And I would be like, oh my God, the festival's going to be bad this year. There's no, like, and then as lengths got longer, they get better now. And actually, kind of the 20-minute plus short nowadays is 20 minutes because it needs to be. And it's so, it just works. And
Yeah.
so we actually created, since you were with us in 2022, we've added a third length category called featurette.
Oh,
So if you're 0 to 20, you're a short. If you're
okay.
20 to 60 minutes, you're a featurette. And if you're 60 plus, you're a feature. And
Hmm.
that doesn't affect submissions really, but it allows us to make sure that films 20 minutes plus are in their own award category. Because you
Mm.
can imagine an award jury sits down and it's really hard to like take a 27-minute wonderful film and a 8-minute wonderful film, and like something happens in the juror's brain that the shorter one always comes out ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, does it need to be this long? And I do feel that Blue Moon needed to be that long. We were telling this huge story and we were doing it. Yes, were there incredible shots? I mean, Diliana has such a vision, especially with what we had to work with. But like, it wasn't an artsy art house film. It was a drama. It was a true drama. And I think when you have such a big topic and we're talking about Alzheimer's, we're talking about the family dynamics, and you have to have multiple family members. You have to get to know them. You have to care about them in a short amount of time. You are limited by what you can do when you try to make something too short. You run the risk of people not caring or connecting to the characters.
That is so key because deep down, yeah, especially with drama, but
Yeah.
comedy too, if you don't care about the characters,
What
then
do we
how
even do?
can
What are
you
we doing?
how can there be an emotional impact, right?
Yeah.
Because needless to say, Blue Moon has an emotional impact throughout. Honestly, like one of the things, I have a sibling, and the dynamic between you and the person who plays your sister is like
Yeah.
one of my favorite parts of the film.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. That's Taylor. She was the co-writer. So it was very fun. I guess I can kind of walk you through its like origin story
You
if you
can,
want.
but I failed in the preamble before we hit record because I was going to warn you that generally at some point, although I think we're a little ways into this, but I ask about you personally, what got you into the arts and what got you into film and
Okay.
acting. So why don't you jump back to when you were a
Okay.
younger person, and share what inspired you? Were you a movie lover? Were you a creative kid? Like what led you to the point that where you're at? And then
Sure.
through your life story, we'll get to Blue Moon.
Okay, sounds perfect. So growing up, I was an only child, and I feel like the TV, films, they were sort of a companion for me in the house. It was the way that I connected to my mom. I have so many memories of us watching Pretty Woman over and over, Ghost. My mom was a huge Demi Moore fan. And I loved there was just this connection and this sharing of this thing that affected her, this film that meant so much to her, and she wanted to share that to me. So that's kind of the initial feeling, right? This thing that happens when we share stories with each other. And then when I was in sixth grade, we had to choose between choir, art, and theater. You had to pick two. And I didn't really want to sing, so I picked theater. And I'm in the class, and my theater teacher encourages me to audition for the play. It's Cinderella, and I end up getting the role of Cinderella. And at that moment, this entire world was so open to me. And I'd always been, growing up by myself, I feel like I had to have an imagination so that I wasn't bored. Nowadays, I mean, kids have so many different things at their disposal, but this was, before I think I had like a PlayStation. So I was just constantly making up games. Constantly, I would play, my girlfriends and I growing up, we would play college, we would play Office. We were just playing. And then after I got this role and it felt like somebody saw some innate talent in me, and I realized by watching movies with my mom that people could do this for a living, I was like, wow, this seems like something that I could really pursue and would really make me happy. And my parents were really supportive, and I really appreciate that. We played around with the idea of me auditioning for the big high school of performing arts in Houston. But I also, on some level, knew that I wanted a really normal high school experience. And I don't know if I knew on some level that maybe I'd get burnt out or maybe it would just be too much for me. But I just went to a normal high school, did theater in high school, but did a bunch of other things too, like speech and debate and sports, student council president, which I think is so important because I think being an actor, if you limit yourself in the experiences that you have, then how are you supposed to play all these different characters that come from all these different walks of life? And being a storyteller, you have to open yourself up to stories. And then I got into USC, and it was the only school that I applied to. Freaked my parents out so much. But I got into the acting program, and
Which is not
USC,
easy to get
which
into.
was not
I'm
easy.
gonna give you a golf clap for the
Thank you.
courage, but but I already revealed I'm a parent whose kid is going to college in the fall, and I'm like,
Yes.
wow, that would have scared the bejesus out of me. No backup school.
Yeah, well, okay. So technically, at the time, if you graduated the top 10% of your high school class in Texas, you got into all the public universities.
Yeah.
But the only good public college was the University of Texas. I had like a pretty good theater program. I think Matthew McConaughey went there. And my dad is a diehard Texas A&M Aggie. So that would have been like a total, that would have been horrible. My dad was like, I don't
So
know
if
if I
you
can
had
pay
gone
for
to
you to go
Austin,
here.
if you had gone to UT in Austin, your dad would have been like, there's a traitor in my midst.
That's right.
Oh, that's
He
funny.
would have like shaken as he wrote those checks, maybe. I don't know.
Such a
He
wonderful
was shaking as
school.
he wrote the USC checks too, I'm sure. And I'm still paying those loans off, but it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, at USC. So and now the USC, the School of Dramatic Arts, as it's now called, and Cinematic Arts are so integrated. But when I was there, that wasn't really the case. And we really, our entire sophomore year was Shakespeare. I mean, we were learning how to act for the theater. And it wasn't until our senior year that we started taking on camera classes. Although we were all in LA, like we knew what the end game was. And then I got really lucky out of college, and I booked roles pretty early on and some great roles and had beautiful experiences. And so it was just kind of the continual opening of doors that made me have the confidence to continue to pursue it, and feel like I could do it. And then when I had my first daughter, I was pregnant, those doors kind of started shutting. And then COVID happened, and I sort of realized that if I wanted to maintain my mental health in this industry, pursuing this career, and also maintain integrity feels like too strong of a word, but so many of the roles that I was auditioning for were two dimensional, felt like they were catering or pandering to a certain type of audience, or the directors, some of them that I started working with were cruel or harsh, actually, or some of them just didn't even seem to care. I remember asking a question about character, and the director was like, "Nobody's going to care if you think that or not." And this was such a shift from what I had been studying in school, where you're supposed to really dig deep, and also what I was reading these people that I looked up to, the Meryl Streeps of the world, who did the work on their characters, and these directors had these conversations with them. And so I thought, okay, if I want to keep doing this, I'm going to have to figure out how to do it my way. And I just got into writing when I was pregnant with my daughter. I couldn't audition anymore because I was pregnant. And I realized that I didn't want to stop telling stories. And yeah, that eventually led me to the right people who gave me the courage to pursue making my first short film, which technically Blue Moon is my second short film, because I got such a bug up my butt during COVID. And I was like, I'm going to write and I want to get with all the people in my acting class and we're going to create a short film. And we actually filmed a film on Zoom. And it's kind of like Love Actually style, where it's all these different characters. And then in the end, you realize how they all come together. And I submitted it to like 3 festivals, and, it was like 45 minutes long. I edited it myself. I had no idea what I was doing, but I'm so thankful for that first step. And that Blue Moon was technically my second short film, because I feel like I learned so much just from the first project to the second.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to jump back a little, and I'm
Okay.
just going to, I hope it's not like too blatant on the virtue signaling thing,
No.
but you pretty much were I think you shared with me that after school, you came face to face with sexism a little
Y-
bit.
yes. I
And
mean,
because I've had
all
other
of us
friends in
have.
your position even who especially in the era before it was all self-tape, like before COVID,
Yeah.
they would be like, "Oh, I take my wedding ring off before I audition."
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, at that point, I wasn't married, but I definitely always knew I would wear my wedding ring if the character was married, right? But that's always been important to me too, dressing that way. But no, I had a lot of, not a lot. I will say, not a lot. When I think about the Me Too movement, I think about the women who came forward and the stories that they had to tell. I did feel really lucky, even though I still experienced some version of it. And I thought, well, isn't that's kind of really shitty, right? Sorry, can
Yeah,
we
you
cuss on
dealt with
this?
shittiness, but not assault.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas
but
a
yeah,
lot of people dealt with assault, but
right, right. And but it also was like, wait, why am I considered lucky? The biggest story was really that I went in for this movie that had a lot of high profile people attached. I'm right out of school, and the character was an exotic dancer. So there needed to be nudity. And my agent called and she said, they're entertaining seeing people who won't do the nudity, cut around it. Do you want to go in for it? And I was like, yeah, okay. If they know that I'm not going to show what I'm not comfortable showing and they still want to see me, great. I'm sitting in a room like with names, Zelda Williams, Brittany Snow, and I'm like 20 years old. Like, what the hell am I doing here? And it's my turn to audition, and things are just clicking with me and the director. And I'm in there for like 45 minutes. He hands me more scenes, which is always a good sign. And he's just like, I think I found her. Like, I think you're it. And I'm working on these scenes. He sends me out and work on these scenes. Then he comes up to me and he goes, hey, I just realized, my cast director is telling me you're not going to show your breasts. And I was like, no, like that was part, you knew that with me coming in. And he was like, oh, God, are you sure? Because, like, you know who's in this movie, right? You know who I've got. Like, I need the character to show her breasts. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. And I was really proud of myself because, I mean, could it have opened up different doors? Who knows, right? What paths other roads lead to. But it wasn't something that I was comfortable doing, and I wasn't going to change my mind for this guy in this moment,
it feels a little telling that instead of talking about story and
Yeah.
saying, like it wasn't like, well, actually it wasn't about the story, it wasn't about the theme. It was like you realize there's famous people in here. You should
Yeah.
really expose yourself for this opportunity. Like, yeah, that does not strike me as an artistic argument.
I know. I know. It was just really, at the end of the day, like it was icky. It was really icky. And it was a really shitty position that I found myself in. And my reps were very supportive at the time and they apologized. They were like, they knew that you did not want to do this. And I'm really sorry that you had this conversation. Wasn't that's not my only experience, but yeah, it's just,
Yeah,
the
one of
industry
them.
needs, go
Honestly,
ahead.
I wanted to ask the question just because I mean you shared that once pregnant, then it severely changed the kind of roles you could go for, and
Yeah.
and that's what led you to actually write more. Which so
Yeah.
it kind of connects back to high school when you were like, well, I'm actually going to try to be a more well-rounded person
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Lord knows it does make you a better artist. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't mean to complain about the wonderful indie filmmaker community, but needless to say, like auditioning film shorts about how much it sucks to audition, like you got to do something really creative because
Yeah.
we get like 20 of those a year. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
like, like if you're so entrenched in filmmaking or in acting that the only story you can tell is about being an actor, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
now, you know, if something crazy doesn't happen, you really have to go the next step on the creativity to step to stand out.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And also, like, on one hand, I get it. I mean, my life was eat, sleep, breathe acting in my 20s. Like, I was afraid to travel. I was afraid to miss opportunities. And I wish I could go back and just shake myself and be like, what are you doing? Like, you're not living your life. You're letting this other thing dictate it. But again, you can only hindsight is 2020. But also like the connections that you make with people living real life. I have made more connections with industry people not doing industry things, which I think people don't quite realize. And then you connect to people on a different level, on like a real friendship level. It's not like, oh, hey, here's what I can do for you, or hey, what can you do for me? Because there's so much of that in this town too. And everybody has their guard up.
There's a lot, and the guards up, and that is actually one of the nice things about the festival circuit. I think, especially at like one like ours that has mixers and things, and people meet.
Yeah.
And nothing I love more than people just, yeah, you have to make a connection first, and then see if you can collaborate or do something.
See if
But
your
if you're
taste is even the same. Like, how do you know?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Whereas if you're literally standing there in the room and you're looking around going, who can help me? Who can do something for me? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the big
People can
well,
smell that a mile away.
oh my God, it's so obvious.
It's so obvious.
And
I
it
know.
never leads to something good.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
Well, excellent. All right, so you actually used the lockdown, and I think I did the math in my head, and you had a toddler during lockdown.
I did. My
Like
daughter was around
one?
18 months
18
when
months.
we went into lockdown.
You
Yeah.
have my deepest sympathies that like, unless you have the kind of parents who are willing to like just show up anyway. Like I knew so many people, they couldn't even turn to the grandparents for help.
Oh no, we could not
Lockdown.
turn to no, we could not turn to my in-laws. My parents were in Houston, so that was not happening. I have to say, like my husband, he he is amazing. He loved that time. He hates saying that because it was such a devastating time for so many people. But for him, he was still able to work from home with his business. He's a broker, he's a commercial real estate agent. And so he does so much work from his home and from his computer. And he just got to play with my daughter every day. And I was able to kind of sneak away and at first edit this 45-minute long Zoom short film. Featurette is what you would call it now. And then later, really focus and hone in all of my efforts on Blue Moon. And I also have to give so much credit to the community that our lead actor, Pat Skipper, cultivated in my acting class before COVID happened. I had been in acting class probably for like 8 months, maybe a year when COVID happened. And it was really every single person in the film. He was in my acting class. Taylor was in my acting class, and we were just chatting. She was a writer, and I said, "Let's like, can we work on this together?" All these people had done my Zoom film, so it was just like the connections that we made. And at first, it was just like a way to stay sane, honestly, right? Like you're scared. You don't know what the world is going to look like. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, you're just living day to day. And at first, it was just me and her coming together over Zoom and saying, how can we stay sane? How can we feel like we're still moving forward in a direction that we want to move forward? And then when I started thinking about other people that I knew, that I had done films with. I had met Diliana through a friend and had been a fan of hers because of Sweetheart and these other projects that she had worked on. And I just knew her as a friend. She had read a feature script that I was writing and gave incredible feedback. And then I had this producer, Ron Hinks, that he had directed me in an indie film years prior. And I had started these conversations about this feature that I was writing with these people. And then when COVID happened, I said, okay, could we make a short? Like, what could we do? And we filmed it in June of 2021. So, I mean, just a year after the world shut down and things were
And
starting to
literally,
open
like
back up.
that's when to get vaccination, you got in a car line of like
Yeah.
cars
Yeah.
and got vaccinated like through your car window. Like I remember June 2021. Like the
Yeah.
world was not normal yet.
No, no, no. And there were so many, there's so much red tape when it came to how to even like begin filming again. But everybody got vaccinated and everybody wore the masks and did the right thing so that, because everybody was just aching to work again. Like when you're creative, at least for me personally, it feels like a part of myself is dormant or even dying when I'm not creating, when I'm not writing or acting. And that's really something that I feel so grateful that I have discovered writing. Am I the best at it? No, but do I feel competent enough to like sort of believe in what I'm doing and writing? Yes, okay. And I'm not sitting around waiting for people to give me a yes. I'm taking control of my life. I'm taking control of my career in a way that I just didn't feel confident doing before this film. And it was really because of Diliana reading it, her immediate yes, and then Ron Hanks really coming through and saying, I will help you get this made. And then through then we had Ron pulled in Larissa, who just sight unseen gave us money to help get this off the ground. I have an aunt who donated a lot of money. We had all of our friends and families step up because even though you're told that you can raise money for a short film by some of these websites, like it's no, like you said, there's no commercial success that comes with short films. You do them, it's your calling card. You do them to open doors, to network, to get into these festivals and meet people so that you can go on to the next thing. But unless you are like Meryl Streep's aunt and can get Meryl Streep in your short film and get it nominated for an Oscar, and even then, I'd love to see a list of people who have won Oscars for short films and then gone on to become well known in the feature world. I would love to see that list. I'm not saying those people aren't talented, but I'm just saying it's really difficult to do.
It may have happened in recent decades, but I was at a lecture probably 15, 20 years ago where someone said they've they've taken the list of the Oscar winner for best live action short and not a single person had won that award and then gone on to make a feature. But I think it might have happened since, but
Yeah.
yeah, the industry doesn't really respect it like they
Right.
should.
Right. I agree. I agree because there it should be a way forward. I mean, these short films Blue Moon cost us $30,000 to make, but because we called in all of our favors, it was like a $65,000 film that we called in all of our favors. Diliana did not make a dollar. I did not make a dollar. Taylor did not, like, everything that we should have made, like by our unions, which, I did pay all the actors per the union. I was definitely, Ron was right by SAG-AFTRA, but Taylor and I turned that right back around and put it into the film because that's what it was all about. And so it is unfortunate because there's a part of you that, as this young, hungry filmmaker, you're like, well, what else am I supposed to do then? How else am I supposed to get my leg into to the room. What is that for my leg into the door? What is that phrase? I feel like I've
Foot in the
mixed.
door, foot in the
Thank
door,
you.
foot in
I
the
was
door.
like,
Yeah.
I'm mixing up all sorts of stuff right now.
But they all work now. But
Yeah, that's right. Get your foot and your leg in the door. There you go.
and I was going to add, you mentioned the websites, and yeah, the dirty secret of those websites. Not I know people I have had success, but they're actually just taking a percentage from the people you know. And
Yes.
it's just like you're paying 5% fee just so you don't
Yeah.
have to ask them as directly.
Dude, just have them Venmo you or Zelle
But
you and
no, yeah,
save the
no one
money.
is going on to those fundraising sites and giving money to someone they've never met. So
Yes.
so you really are, it really is a weird kind of ripoff
It
in
is.
its own
It's a
way.
scam. It's a scam. Like, let's just say it. I feel like GoFundMe is the one where maybe they don't keep anything. I don't know. I could be wrong. I will never go down that road again. So, but you live, you learn. You don't know. Like you don't know until you try to figure it out for yourself.
For sure.
You know.
And was there this is a I almost hate this question. So I'm pre-apologizing
Okay.
for the question. But based on what you said, like, was there a temptation to expand Blue Moon
To a feature.
to a feature like the first punch at it just because you were putting because I kind of think the story could have held up.
Oh, well, Jeff, let me tell you, that thought has not completely gone away.
Right,
I
right.
do think the potential is there. But no, we knew, and it was like COVID gave us permission to just do what we could do at the time with what we had. And we knew that making a feature would be so much more complicated. And also, we knew that like Diliana and I are actually writing a feature right now, and we're writing the story we want to tell and the way we want to tell it, but we're also being really smart about a lot of things. Like, I'm not writing the lead character for myself. I'm writing a really strong supporting lead character for myself. But if we want to get this movie made, we need a name attached as the lead. That's
Right,
just the truth
right.
of it.
And based upon your experience making this film and Diliana directing,
Yeah.
you are probably being like, well, if we do that kind of sequence, now that puts us in a different budget category. So I always joke
Yeah, I
with
know.
people, I'm
I
like,
tell
why
Diliana
don't
to
you
turn
make a
her producer
sci-fi
mind off.
film, right? I always joke about the sci-fi film where the sun never sets.
Yeah.
And then you get to do exterior day and you just save the lighting package or whatever. But
Yeah.
it is, yeah, no, I mean, that is one of the wonderful things when films keep getting better is people understand how to make the most of what they have in the
Yeah.
physical world, not creative. You can, right? Like, I think there is a very good argument that the reason why some filmmakers, and I'm talking about the big ones, like their work starts to get boring because there's no limits anymore, and it's those
Yeah.
limits and thinking creatively around the challenges. You know, Jaws
Yeah.
is better because the shark didn't work. You know what I mean? Like,
It's so
and
true.
and if
It's
they
so
remade
true.
Jaws today, there'd be no financial limit, and it would
Yeah.
probably come out terrible because there would be no creative solutions.
And it'd be some CGI mess. Yeah.
It'd be, but
Yeah.
besides that, but yeah. So I applaud. It's great to hear that you two are working on a script together. But it's great to
Yeah.
hear that you're you're wearing you have your writer's hat, but you have the producer scarf on too.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah. We do, Diliana produces commercials. And so she actually is better about it than I am when it comes to things where I'm like, well, if we write this, like, isn't that going to be so expensive? And she was like, look, we will cross those bridges when we can. The very first thing you need to make a movie is a really good script if you don't have any notoriety attached to your name. The only reason people will read it if it's a really good script. So, things can change in production, pre-production, but for now, let's just write the best story that we can. But we're being smart about it. Like I said, it's a horror film, and horror is one of the few genres that people that is making money, that's going to theaters, and will hire some more like unknowns, because as a genre, it just, you know, people are
And
liking the horror right now.
no, and horror has always been where a lot of great people get started,
Yeah.
especially with features and especially in the streaming world. I can tell you, as someone who falls in love with many feature films at the festivals, the horror films go on to to stream the best. It
Yeah.
breaks my heart because
Yeah.
there's more to the world than I've actually really learned to appreciate horror over the years, thanks to a certain teenager under my roof who only watches horror,
There you go.
which loyal listeners of the podcast have heard me say that way too many times. But and for some reason, I want to just jump in and also mention that you did mention Pat Skipper, and for anyone listening, the the actor who plays your father, everyone has seen. If they don't know his name, you have seen his face on your television about 1,000 times, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
he's
Most recently in Oppenheimer. So, there's
yeah,
that.
a little film called Oppenheimer, and
Right.
yeah, just one of those actors who every time you see them, they're good
Yeah.
and memorable, and so it's
And
so
he's a
that was
tour
a
de
very
force
cool.
in this film. And I'm so appreciative that he connected to it and he said it was one of his favorite experiences making a movie, which like you just said, he has quite the resume. So that was pretty cool to hear.
But I've heard that from a lot of actors who are successful in the industry when they're at a festival film and they're sitting and and when they show up for a Q&A, that like they really cared. So that
Yeah.
might that so my experience might be self-selected by that, but there's such a gratitude to get back to the art of it
Yeah.
that you often, I mean, I'm sure it was really rewarding to be in Oppenheimer,
Right.
but I doubt that he got to connect emotionally to the material and the people around him like he did on Blue Moon. I mean, I got Blue
Yeah.
Moon, he was the patriarch. He got a family to
We were all kind of his little ducklings who, that was kind of weird to like kind of be his boss in a way. But he was so great about it. But yeah, I think he was definitely like a proud papa of the work that we were doing. So
for sure, for sure. And so how was your? It sounds like the process went really well in spite of the challenge of COVID. You just had a really
yeah.
lovely time with it and so collaborative.
It was extremely collaborative. And again, it was because of my experience having been in the industry at that point for almost 10 years. And look, I have done projects where I cannot call these people. I mean, I don't even have their contact information, but like these are big producers, big directors. And then I have done some of these smaller projects, people who I could call and could email and could ask advice or talk to about trying to get something made. And it was just really amazing, those people who came through. And it was kind of a reunion for some of us. We worked with Ron's wife was the DP. We had the same sound guy as the feature that I did with him. And then I went on to be in that guy's next film. So, and that's the thing is like when you realize that the way that it actually works on a larger level, like when you look at Judd Apatow and Freaks and Geeks and you realize, wait, all of those people are still in each other's movies. And oh my gosh, it is just like finding your network and finding your collection of people and building each other up is really what it's about. And you only do that when you make those real connections and you come from a place of wanting to give as much as like hoping to receive, I think,
Absolutely, yeah. And then you go through the edit and you make that decision to stay a few seconds under 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then am I right? Was your premiere at Film Invasion LA? Was that just the LA premiere?
I think it was
I
our
feel like you all
premiere.
came out like it was such a
I think it was. I think it
yeah.
was. And we were all so excited.
Well,
Yeah.
the funny thing is we have since moved to much bigger, fancier theater, but
Oh, hey.
that was still a nice, intimate, good, wonderful time.
It
And
was.
and then how was your festival experience? Like how was your run? Was it
It was really incredible. I do love the intimacy of the smaller theaters and just, there's the moment in the film, right? Where as the filmmaker, I'm just waiting to hear what people's reactions will be. And there was one film festival where the moment happened and then I just heard sobbing and I felt so conflicted because I was like, kind of happy that this woman had such an emotional reaction because that's kind of what I wanted. But then I also felt so horrible about bringing her to this place of pain. And she found me after the screening and she thanked me for the film and said that she hadn't seen her experience depicted back to her in such a honest way. And, you know, it meant a lot to me. Like, that's all that I ever wanted to do. And the film can be very polarizing. And we actually had some feedback from some people who were like, that never happens. And I was like, yeah, I have the newspaper articles to prove it, buddy. So believe what you want to believe. But the ending to this film was not a contrived ending. It was an ending based on realities, unfortunate realities. And the family dynamic and the family experience was based on realities. But at the end of the day, like, that actually wasn't my reality. This was all taken from a newspaper article that I had read. And then I was talking to a friend a few weeks later, and she had told me that this exact thing had happened to a friend of hers. And I hadn't even brought up the article. And I thought, there's something there. There's something with this story. What is this? And I just wanted to explore it as a writer, as a woman. I wanted to explore it. And so when people had such a reaction to it, I was just so grateful. My great grandmother did have Alzheimer's, but I was like 8 years old when she passed away. I didn't have this exact experience. And so the fact that I was able to capture it, Taylor and I were able to capture it, Diliana really gave so much input. That opening scene was all Diliana. She was like, we have to see it. Taylor and I went immediately to the sisters, our characters showing up. So it's just lovely. And when all you want to do is tell the best story in the most honest and truthful way that you can, you remain open to other people's ideas and collaborations. And that's really where the best stuff gets made. And I just feel so grateful, like, to have found Diliana, especially because there are no stupid ideas between the two of us. We bounce everything off of each other. We realize we have the same taste level. We have such a respect for each other as filmmakers, as women, as people. And I think that that's like, she's buoyed me through moments of self-doubt. I think I've buoyed her through moments of self-doubt. And when you find that in LA, it's huge.
It's huge, and it's huge. It's so important, especially when you're creating something with some independent intentions
Yeah.
or not, but you need to be true to your vision. And by the way, it's actually conflicting for me to hear you call the film polarizing, because as
Yeah.
I actually did go through Alzheimer's with my grandmother and then dementia with my father. And your film is so authentic. I mean, for someone who didn't experience it really face to face, I can tell you, like, I'm in a weird position as a juror because I've gone through that. So, and this is a subject that a lot of films do try to work with. And if you get it wrong, I'm like your worst enemy.
Yeah.
Because and I'm actually, I don't know. My wife and I are both cancer survivors, and if you have cancer in your film, and you're full of shit, like, you've just made an enemy of me, because I'm like,
Yeah.
don't take life-changing experiences that are
Yeah.
greatly experienced around the globe and glibly do the Hollywood thing where you're like, well, I mean, honestly, the Hollywood representation of Alzheimer's is often so inaccurate and
Yeah.
so. And even the differences between Alzheimer's and dementia, they always get wrong. Like,
Yeah.
so a film like yours that gets it right. Like, if I'd been in the audience and someone was saying something negative or polarizing or said, like, I don't really, I'd be like, you don't know. I would have been that jerk
You would have
who,
shut
like,
them down.
yeah, which you're not supposed to do. Everyone should have a right to their opinion. But, like, when I'd be like, you have that opinion because you're ignorant, and
Yeah.
this was too much for you emotionally. You can't
Yeah.
handle the truth, which, I'm not a fan of the movie, but anyway. But, like, it's true. This is a
Yeah.
truth, and
Yeah. And
and there's so much more there.
so much too about this film was the way that at that time, caregivers in our society just felt so cast aside and not cared for, not cared about. It was a slight mirroring of the doctors and the nurses who were dealing with all the COVID-19 patients and the way that the government was handling the situation and lack of handling the situation. And so that was a really important aspect of it too. Not just what the disease can do to a family dynamic, but really like how to the person suffering it, but how it really affects every single person that it touches, and especially that one person or those few people that are right there, like you said, with your parents, being right there in the down in the trenches with this person, trying your best to make the best decisions for them, being affected yourself. I mean, it's just, I'm like getting emotional thinking about it. It's taking me right back to that place of writing it. It's a really difficult place for people to find themselves.
It's a really, and caregiving, the dynamic of caregiving is so different now in our culture.
Yeah.
In so many ways. God, I mean, I could hop on another soapbox, but what we underpay caregivers insanely, but also medical science has, probably due to lawsuits and whatnot, they just keep the heart beating in spite of quality of life.
Right.
And, I mean, my grandmother did actually make it into her 90s. So, but like this is actually really new. This is about like life extension has made dementia and Alzheimer's so much more prevalent.
Yeah.
Because we used to die before our brains went.
Right.
And now our
right.
bodies stick around and our brains aren't there.
Right.
And caring for a parent is a whole ball. In fact, your film reminds me of how my mother had a really hard time when her mother had it. And I just had a wonderful relationship where I went to lunch with my grandmother every Sunday. We'd go to Canner's Deli here in LA, and all the waitress would be, "Oh, your grandson's so sweet taking you to lunch." And she'd go, "That's not my grandson, that's my friend." And they thought she was saying, "He's my grandson and my friend," but she did not know I was her grandson anymore.
Right.
Like, but my mother had the hardest time with it, and she was complaining all the time. I'm like, "What's wrong? Nana's fine. Like, it's all fine." But then when I had to care for a parent, I realized that it's when the dynamic changes. The person who cared for you, now you have to.
It's such a weight, and it's such a multifaceted weight, because it's also like, not only was Frank, our patriarch, dealing with caring for his wife, but like his wife not knowing him. And like after a marriage, a partnership, and then the girls having to go through that, like there's just so.
And his need to protect his daughters from this, but also protect his wife, because if they care for her wrong,
and also protect her from the system, because we've heard so much about what happens, unfortunately, at some of these places, and especially if there's not a lot of money involved. I mean, it's a really broken system, and this was our attempt to just create an empathetic response, just show maybe you don't have the whole picture. Have you considered it from this angle? And I think that's all you can do as a filmmaker.
And as you said, you have the clip, you have the articles, you have the facts. Like,
that's true. It is based in reality.
It's not fiction. Yeah,
right.
It's not a dramatic fictional thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's it breaks my heart, but more and more people will deal with this every year.
Yeah.
As we are great at extending life.
Right.
But I'm creeping up on 60, so I'm in a world where my wife and I are always talking about health span versus lifespan.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, so, you got to start exercising more and blah, 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 because
that's right.
When my mother is thankfully still with us, and when I go, and by the way, needless to say, she doesn't know what a podcast is, so I can say it. But she'll turn 85 this year. And she will have lunch with people in their 90s. And even like there's a couple people where she lives over 100. And she's like, I still feel young.
Yeah, there you go. It's all relative.
but it's just so common now that people are living much longer. And
Yeah. So what are we going to do about it?
what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And right now, well, soapbox corporations are just trying to make sure that everyone's family gets left to nothing. They want to take every senior citizen and bankrupt them as they
Yeah.
care for them at the end.
That's why you just have to keep yourself educated. It's a really scary time to stay educated right now. I personally feel I have to walk that fine line for my mental health, but I'm also like, I brought children into this world and I have a duty and a responsibility to them to try to make it the best world for them and try to give them the brightest future I can. And I think that it's really important to stay educated. Please don't keep your head buried in the sand. It can be really scary, but you don't know to do better if you don't know what you're working and fighting against.
And it is there a connection between the fact that this story came out of you soon after becoming a parent? Or are you
Probably, yeah,
unrelated?
definitely a big connection for sure. For sure. I mean, I think about all the things you think about when you become a parent, burden, responsibility, both ways. You know, yeah,
Yeah, you
definitely.
do. And if you're crude like me, you'll say to your kid when they're old enough, you just say all the time, like, by the way, you're going to change my diaper in like we're about 15 years, and then that's going to be your job.
No way, the
He's
robots
like,
will
"Yo,
do
I'll
it. It'll
hire
be
someone to do
fine.
it." I go, "Well, then you better get you gotta do the math now." For
Yeah. Start saving for those diaper changes now.
but it's like I did it for you. Now you got to. It's my turn's coming.
That's right.
It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So now, are you still are you balancing? Because you strike me as a balanced kind of person. Like, are you
Oh, God
still
bless you.
the high school thing and this and that and writing while acting. Like, are you are you trying to balance out auditioning for other things while working on your own material?
Yes, I still have representation. My manager has been with me from the go, and she still sends me some really great opportunities, which is exciting. But I'm no longer banking on that. It's hard to it is hard to come back to the industry after choosing to have children, and that's a fact. Is it a fair fact? No, but it's a fact. Women have to definitely make decisions in this industry, but I'm determined to have it all, I guess.
And you
And
have a partner, but you also have a partner who is willing to be an equal partner in childcare, which is less common than it should be, I think.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that was always an important thing to me. First off, it was important to me that he wasn't in the industry. I'm just a competitive person. So I knew that if he was in the exact same industry as me and started to have more success, that would weigh on me. Like, I just knew that about myself and I was honest. And he's just an incredible man. He works really hard and he's been able to provide for us at times where it's given me the opportunity to focus on my creative pursuits. And I mean, the plan is for to have it all pan out for sure. But yes, I'm working on the feature with Diliana, like I said, and then I started a podcast, which I will plug here if I
Heck
can.
yeah. In fact, they're make sure we can make it a clickable link from this one. So
Okay, yeah, I'll email you all this stuff. It's called Babes in Bookland, and every episode I chat about a memoir written by a woman with a woman from my own life, a good friend, and we just celebrity memoirs as well as non-celebrity memoirs, but they are written by women or non-binary people. And I think it's really important to get women's stories out there right now. So that's what I'm doing.
that sounds excellent. I don't always seek them out, but like every vacation, every trip, I grab a couple books from the library.
Okay.
For the my memory, the the Pitch Perfect lead actor,
Oh, Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick. I read her
Yes. Oh,
biography.
cute. Okay. It's
I
on my
just it
list.
happened to be sitting there. I grabbed it, and it had a clever title that was
Yeah. Scrappy
self-effacing.
little nobody. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, I just so I think it's fantastic that you actually that your book club is and podcasts are centered around women's life stories. That's
Yeah. I will say the Viola Davis episode has been the most popular. And she has, I mean, talk about a woman in the industry. She has a great story. So if you're looking for another women's memoir by someone that you know of, maybe you know Viola Davis, but
I mean, I just finished a book night before last, so I'm trying to decide what I read next. So,
all right, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Getting book tips.
Yeah.
Well, that all sounds wonderful. Any other clickable links do you have like a website devoted to your work?
Sure. Yeah, I've got a website devoted to the podcast, babesinbookland.com. And then I have my personal Instagram at Alex Frnka that I don't post at very much anymore because I'm trying to be smart about my social media time. But yeah, always happy to share things that are going on there for sure.
Excellent. Yeah, isn't it funny? Yeah, it's I'm with you on the social media, as you know. Like I used to post lots and lots of things, and maybe it's where the world is, but
yeah,
it's just it's not as important as it used to be when my avocado tree has a nice one. Although I do share gardening.
I'm so jealous you have an avocado tree. We had one at our old house and it came down in the windstorm.
Oh no.
I know.
Ours survived, but it hated the wind. But I picked it up at Costco, I think in 2020, about 3 or 4 years ago.
Wow.
And we just got fruit last year. So.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
And it went from 2 feet to like 12. So
that's incredible. Yeah. And so our avocado tree fruited and we kept waiting for them to ripen and fall off. And then my sister-in-law was like, no, you pull them off and they'll ripen on the counter. And I was like, oh, so it's kind of great because you only can take them as you need them. You're not having to like give everybody guacamole for like the 3 weeks that they all fall off your tree.
True. It's just more challenging. For some reason, the ones I buy at Costco, like I know when they're ready. And the ones I pull down, like I never know when it's quite softened enough. It's kind of funny.
Oh.
The challenge, I don't know. We got whatever.
Now we're talking about avocados.
I just discovered that I could probably talk to you about all my plants back there. I've got like 10 citrus and we've got an apple tree with 4 varieties.
Oh, that is so cool.
And a stone fruit tree with nectarine, peach, and plum.
Ooh, keep me posted on that one because we had a stone fruit tree and we loved it, but we never got to the fruit because the squirrels and birds always got to it before we
We're
did.
lucky that we're kind of low on the squirrels.
Okay.
Lots of birds, low on the squirrels for some reason around here. I guess the coyotes do a good job, but I don't know. That was mean.
Terrible.
But the best plum I ever had came off that tree. It was so delicious. But anyway.
Don't things taste differently when you grow them yourself? They just do.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah. And thankfully, I'm so lazy, I don't use fertilizer or anything, so they are organic. But
hey,
but I know we got super into buying those trees that like have multiple varieties. We go to nurseries, but
that's cool. That is really cool.
Maybe I should just do a gardening podcast. Get over it. But
that's your next one for sure.
No, one. And thankfully, this one's lovely because every 6 months there's another film festival with people who deserve to be on here.
I think it's so great that you do this and you're such a champion of indie film and the filmmakers. And I love that you started the channel. And so thank you for that, for working your damnedest to get as many eyeballs on our films as possible. It's really important.
Well, thank you. And I'm just going to take that as the perfect segue to get us out of here because you just mentioned these things. So fine, I'll just mention the stuff that Alex just referred to, which is, well, first, this is the Discover Indie Film podcast. So to go to discoverindiefilm.com to learn about it and things that are born from it. On social media, it's always at DIF Wins. By the way, the nonprofit, I'm about to mention the 2 film festivals, but I'm starting to try to come out from the shadows about the nonprofit because I was always like hesitant to even like, I don't know, muddy the waters and beg. But the truth is like, so the Sherman Oaks Film Festival and Film Invasion Los Angeles are the 2 festivals that I'm involved in. And they are both run by the Discover Indie Film Foundation. So that's discoverindiefilm.org. If somebody likes tax write-offs, they can donate,
Yes.
But and there's memberships and things. So there's discoverindiefilm.com for the podcast. and other stuff. And then there's discoveryindiefilm.org for the nonprofit that is a 501c3 corporation for the arts.
Yes, be a patron of the arts. You can do it.
Yeah, and it runs Film Invasion Los Angeles that we hold every June, and that is where we showed Blue Moon in 2022. We're coming up, the 10th anniversary is this June.
Wow, congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm about to punish you for the length, but I was about to say, I think we're going to try to pull one short from every year previous.
Uh-huh.
But we're going to aim for the 5-minute one.
Oh, drat.
Well, you know what I mean? Because theater.
I get it.
I get it. Hundreds every year, so it's not like we want to make it a whole retrospective. And it's not like we can afford to rent the theater an extra couple days for that, but...
I know. But luckily, everybody can go to the Indie Film Channel and check out Blue Moon there.
Yes, exactly. Go to... filminvasionla.com is the website, and at filminvasionla is the social media handle, including Blue Sky. And it's Film Invasion's sister festival is the Sherman Oaks Film Festival. And you can learn about that one at ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at ShermanOaksFF on social media. My brain. Film Invasion is expanding to Lima, Peru next year.
Whoa.
There's going to be Film Invasion Lima, January 2026.
Oh my gosh.
I've met a wonderful team down there, and they were at Sherman Oaks Film Festival in December. Said, we wish we had this back home in Lima. And I said, well... Because I've had a handful of people talk about a film invasion in another city here in the USA and also Vancouver and stuff, and never quite comes through. But I have to tell you, I've seen pictures of they booked the theater, and let's just say that costs are different in Lima.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
It's. I'm like, wait a minute, you're getting that theater for that price? Oh my God, we can't lose here. No matter what, we're breaking even.
That's amazing.
That's what you want to do for the arts. So Film Invasion is finally going to have so when I say Sherman Oaks and Film Invasion are sister festivals, then there's going to be a cousin in South America, which I think is very groovy.
That is groovy. I like it.
And finally, yes, IndieChannel.tv is a streaming service and website that is currently on a couple smart TV platforms. And just go to IndieChannel.tv, and there's well over 200 fantastic short films of all kinds of all indie films of all lengths, and just high qualities. And it's, I managed to not complain about things, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Time for me to be quiet. And thank you, Alex, for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun to talk about Blue Moon almost 3 years later. Wow. Yeah, from it premiering 4 years from making it.
Yeah, you made it 4 years ago, and it was 3 years ago June that screening happened. Yeah. But thank you for being a trooper and coming on this podcast when you have, I thanked Alex earlier because we've had this podcast scheduled
a couple times. Yeah.
And we rescheduled, and I just love the not letting it slip through the cracks thing.
That's right.
I appreciate that. So I appreciate you. And I'm just going to thank everyone who's listening. I'm going to thank you for listening. And goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh, wait. And the podcast after this one will be Alex answering those 4 questions that if you're a fan of the podcast, you're aware of. But favorite films, underrated, overrated, lesser known that people should seek out. So the one after this will not be an interview. It'll just be
me shooting my opinion. Yep.
Shooting the opinions. There, you're so good about not cursing.
Yeah, right.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Bye.